What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to talk all about darkroom printing today. As you can see around me, this is not my typical environment. I've moved to the burbs and I'm spending a lot of time in the basement here in this house. And this is where I've set up my darkroom, my little fake office. Of course, there's all kinds of stuff behind me, as you see. It's a bit of a mess, but whatever. The point is, I've got a darkroom now and I want to show you what it looks like and what I've been doing recently. I actually took time to print one specific image that was giving me a lot of trouble in the scans, and it's this image right here. This is from expired film, and because of that, I feel like I wasn't getting the colors that I was expecting to get in the scan. Negative Lab Pro gave me this upon initial conversion, which looks kind of wild. So I had to really mess with this a lot more than I typically do when I'm converting things with Negative Lab Pro. And then I started second guessing myself because I couldn't get a result that I liked. So I decided, you know what? The best way to know exactly what this film should look like is to darkroom print it. For me, darkroom printing is the best source of truth when it comes to what an image should look like. Obviously, there's a lot of things you can tweak when you're printing, but generally, I think there's a truthfulness to what you're getting there because it's the intended process for the film. Film was made to be developed and then to be darkroom printed. Obviously, scanning works just great, but oftentimes in Negative Lab Pro, I don't have to do anything when I convert my images. I really like what they look like right off the off the conversion, especially if I'm using stocks that I know well. But here it just wasn't happening, so into the darkroom we went. All right, so I'm gonna give you a nice little darkroom tour now that we talked about the prints. And like I said, this is in the basement of a house. I don't have running water in that basement. The water is in the garage, so every time I print, I do my exposures in the basement, and then I do my development in the basement as well. I have my chemicals in a bucket of water, but then the final rinse where you get the fixer off of the remaining fixer off of the paper, for that I have to go back upstairs, out of the house into the garage, which is attached, and then use the big utility sink that's there. And the sink is great because it's big, it's made out of big PVC plastic, so it's very durable, you can't mess anything up, and there's a lot of space. So that's great when I'm dealing with the active water. But it's a lot of back and forth. I start here, I go back over there, then I come back, and I do this over and over again through all the different test prints. But it's cool. That means I get some extra steps. But it's really nice to have a darkroom in my home now, finally. I probably spent maybe $400 getting everything that I needed. Maybe a little bit more now, maybe closer to $5. But I bought everything used, and I even rehabbed an Enlarger that I got, which was pretty cheap. But I did have to put some, time and effort into getting it up and running to my satisfaction. So let's start with that tour. So let's give you a quick, brief intro to my darkroom setup here in the basement of where I'm living currently. So this is my darkroom. This is the Enlarger that I use. This is the Chromega B by Omega, and it's a full color setup as you see here. This one's kind of beat up. I got it on Facebook Marketplace for I think like just under 200 bucks. And it came with a lens, and it came also with a condenser for pure black and white printing. It was pretty beat up. The condition was kind of rough. If you pull up in here, so you see right there, those foam seals. Those foam seals were pretty melted and really bad condition when I got them. So this Enlarger wouldn't open. This thing was just stuck right here to itself. So I've pried it open forcefully, as you see in this old video here. And I scraped it with an X-Acto knife, and I managed to get it all off. And then I ordered some new light seals that are used for cameras, and I got some adhesive foam, and then I just used it on there. So the foam helps keep my film holder in place, which you see right there. There's a film holder, and keeping that in place nice and softly without scratching anything, it just does exactly what it needs to do. So these film holders right here, these are actually 3D printed, and the Enlarger did not come with film holders. It's just something that I wish it had, but obviously it did not, because it was some random thing I found on Facebook Marketplace from some guy who just buys stuff at auction and then sells it to whoever wants to buy it. So this was one of those things he found. But anyways, I went on eBay, and there is a guy on eBay who is 3D printing film holders of a variety of sizes and a variety of styles. So I got this one, and I also got a 35mm one, both very cheap. I think each was like 40 bucks or something. And they work fantastic. They are lightweight, and of course they're made out of plastic, but I don't really need anything that isn't made out of plastic here. This is going to last as long as I take care of it, and it does exactly what I need it to do. So those are the film holders. Okay, let's continue the tour here. So here is the easel that I use. I've got two of them, but this is the big one. It's a Bogan easel, and it lets me print up to 12 by 16, which is great because that's the size that I typically am shooting. This back here is something that I just got, and this is a GrabLab timer. It's basically controls the Enlarger. So instead of powering the Enlarger on and off yourself, this controls when it turns on and off, and you can very precisely dial in the settings for timing. So you got seconds. There's a lot of different things that you can do by decimals. You can do whole seconds, whatever you want. The chemicals are those black bottles, and then I have an immersion circulator used for sous vide cooking, and that's what keeps my temperature for my chems. I didn't used to have this before when I had a darkroom in London, a home darkroom. I would just use hot water and then let the chemicals kind of get the temperature and then change as the night went on. But now I have precise chemicals the entire time, which is great because that means I can have very consistent temperatures for my chems and very consistent results. You shouldn't see any color shifts or anything due to temperature, which is great. Here you see my paper collection. So I got a ton of color paper right there. I use the Fuji stuff, which is basically all you can really get nowadays if you want to buy it pre-cut. But if you want rolls, you can get Kodak paper. And then I got a ton of black and white paper right there. I'm going to be printing black and white here also with this thing, which is the jobodrum. I probably won't be doing trays here, open trays, because I don't have good ventilation down here, and that means I'll need more space. And that's just a lot more stuff to do. But this is the other kind of key thing in this darkroom, is the jobodrum. And this is where you develop the paper that you just exposed to the Enlarger light. So in the dark, complete darkness, you put your paper in there, just like you would with film when you're developing film. You close it. Once you close it, that red top, you can take it off and you can turn the lights on, and then that you pour your chemicals in through the top there. And then you can pour them back out through the same exact opening back into your bottles. And there's only 2 cycles from those chems that you see over there. There's developer and fixer. Each one is 45 seconds, and then you go to wash. It's a very simple process, honestly. The hard part is dealing with that up there in terms of selecting the colors that you want to use. And this Enlarger actually had a problem with the dials. These two stick to each other. I'll show you this clip right here. Basically, I had to open this up and kind of loosen up the setup so that these knobs would move freely and not impact each other. This middle one's a bit floppy, so it's not, you can get exact measurements, but like you have to be very, very light touch, and like when you let it go, you can easily knock it out. Kind of annoying, but you know, again, I got this Enlarger super cheap. This is something that's going to get me going and keep me busy, and if I find a really good deal for the one that I really want, which is the Durst Enlarger that I used to have in London, then I'll buy it. But in the meantime, I got this. Lastly, this is where I view my prints. So if I want to back up here, you'll see this is the Enlarger. This is the developing section, as I showed you here. I got my gloves on the chair there for protection. And then this is where I view my prints. So just a couple boxes stacked up. And typically that's enough space for me to set out the test prints and then the final prints. I could get a table in here, but again, I have to move some stuff around, and I don't really feel like doing that just yet. This is a print I made today. We're going to talk about this in a second, but as you can see here, a bunch of different test prints, and then my final results, that one and that one. All right, so here are the 2 prints that I made, my 2 final prints. They're basically almost the exact same settings. I just did 1 more second of exposure, I believe, on this print over here. As you can tell, the exposure on the kid's face is just a hint less dark, or sorry, less bright. So I really like how this turned out, and honestly, looking at the kid's face, now it makes me understand that the scan that I had wasn't too bad. This part right here on the kid's, on the side of his face, the color is kind of strange. It's not his skin color. I mean, it doesn't appear that his skin color has that like orangey magenta cast on it. I thought that was kind of an artifact that was just on the scan, but you can see it here too. And I think the reality here is that this is expired film, so you're just gonna get some funky colors depending on how it was stored. This stuff that I got was pretty old, and I think not only was it expired, but then I think I overexposed the hell out of this shot. I was already, I think, exposing it 2 stops under, or sorry, 2 stops over by metering at ISO 100. But I think I just went too hard on this one. I probably exposed even beyond that. So it's just a little bit too much light, and therefore maybe throwing off the colors and giving me that shift. Here, I think I got a really good overall image. His skin is exposed properly. The shirt's still a little bright. I could probably dodge that. I just didn't feel like doing it. But overall, I think I like how the greenery looks here. I like how he looks generally. The sky here also has a pretty natural blue color. So this is more in line with what I was expecting, but this isn't too far off the scan now that I have printed it. I always trust the print more than the scan because this film was made to be printed as opposed to scanned. So that's it. Yeah, it was a really good exercise to do this after fighting with the scan so much, because I really thought that I just was messing things up with the scan. You see the scans here. What Negative Lab Pro was giving me and what I created were two very different things. Usually I don't edit things too much beyond what Negative Lab Pro gives me, but in this case I really had to push that file in a very different direction color-wise to really make up for what I was seeing. But the prints kind of confirm everything for me and make me feel good. Yeah, that noise in the background, that's the dehumidifier in the basement here. It's just so many random sounds all the time. Pipes, you got the dehumidifier, you got the water heater, you got the boiler. It's just all kinds of stuff. As an added bonus, I actually want to show you some prints I made recently. I tell you, I just got this Enlarger, so I've been trying to get in the darkroom as much as possible in the last 2 weeks. And I started with this right here. This is out of focus because I don't have a focus finder just yet. It's coming in the mail, but I got pretty close to just my eye. I love this picture. This was taken at a rap cypher, which is basically like a big freestyle session, rap freestyle session, where a bunch of people show up. Big event here in New York City. That's a lot of fun. And this kid was looking through the fence of the park, watching from the other side. I just thought it was really beautiful, innocent kind of moment of this young kid who, you know, wants to hang out with the grown-ups, but obviously he's too young, especially because his shirt says little bro. And therefore, you know, he's doing the next best thing, which is kind of climbing up onto the little landing and then grabbing onto the fence and watching. And of course, you see these highlights right here on the side of his face and of his arms. That's the sunset right there. This is probably like late golden hour, and you got some really beautiful hard side light with this nice kind of orangey color. I absolutely love this photo. If there was something else I would have done different in the print, I probably would have brightened up these areas here a little bit because it's a little dark here. But that's about it. And I have two versions of the print here. I believe this one is, I think, exposed slightly longer, so it's a little darker, but they're very, very similar. As you see here, you can probably see the difference now if I show both of them. But I really, really love this photo. I love the memory of this photo, and working with the print was great. And I posted this on Instagram and Threads, and people loved it. So it was nice to get some really good positive feedback about the print and the image. And let's show you this one here. This is the print I made a couple days ago. People really like this one too. These images were, well, this image, it's only one image, was shot on the last day of me living in New York City, in the burb, not in the burb, sorry, in New York City, in Bushwick. Bushwick is the neighborhood I was at. And I just did a kind of a quick power lap, about an hour and a half or so through the neighborhood. And I found this dude. This is in the park. He was chilling. And I just loved his vibe. He had no shirt on. He had this really kind of timeless haircut, you know, just that regular kind of moppy thing going on, but in the cool way. And he was just really, really calm. And again, I love those calm moments in New York City. So I went up to him, asked for a photo, and of course I got it. And here, I've got two prints. One of them is basically slightly dodged, or sorry, slightly burned versus the other one. This one right here, I burned it a bit, or sorry, I dodged it a bit in order to keep that area a little bit darker as compared to this one here where the face is exposed as it is on the negative as a whole. And I like the one with a little bit more contrast, this one right here. I just think the contrast really brings some dimension to the face and makes the image just look better overall. But this is a medium format negative on 120. I think this is shot on expired film as well. Some expired Fuji 400H or Portra 400 that I had that was expired too. Actually, this is from the exact same roll as this. So I'm pretty sure this is expired 400H. But you can see like here, the colors are a bit more normal as compared to this image here, where the colors get a little bit more funky, especially on the skin. At least that's my opinion. But I think, again, this image right here, as I said earlier, I think I overexposed it way too much, and that just kind of started messing with the colors a bit. Whereas here, I think this was properly exposed given the age of the film and the way it was stored. But it held up pretty well. I'm not mad at it. And yeah, just look at how this looks right here. Just having all these prints out. It's just really nice to print. And I'm doing this with one hand, which is why the angle is kind of weird. But step back. Like, I made all this, and that's cool as hell. And I made it in a garage using some pretty basic tools, nothing too wild. Darkroom printing in color is not that hard. It's not inaccessible, and literally anybody can do it given some circumstances, because you do need a light tight space, whether it's a closet or an entire room. That is a requirement. Beyond that, you can get really, really creative. I don't even have running water down here. I use those buckets to heat the temperature, and that's it. And then I go to the garage to actually rinse and use the utility sink that's there. But anyways, I digress. These are the prints that I've made in the first 2 weeks of having my darkroom set up in the basement. So that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be printing a lot, obviously, and there's going to be a lot of darkroom prints coming onto this channel here. So subscribe, make sure you're watching, make sure you're checking out the new videos, and thanks for the support. I'm out.